Like whenever we talk in English, I've noticed that my family, sometimes we have an accent or sometimes it's not grammarly correct or, whenever we say something. And so my friends sometimes they'll be like, oh, like you didn't say that right. Or they'll just laugh like, oh, it's this way instead of that way. Hola, me llamo Karla y me siento al lado tuyo.
Tell me where you were born and you grew up and where your family was born and where they grew up.
Okay, so I was born here in Lincoln, Nebraska. My mom is from Honduras and my dad is from Mexico. So I kind of get like the best of both worlds with like culture because it's two different visions in the Latino culture.
What do you think are some commonly held misconceptions about, I'll just say, Latinx people or Hispanic people?
I think that some misconceptions would be like, just because we like are Hispanic, like we have to speak Spanish perfectly, or we can't be brown, like we can't be not brown. Like it's weird, because like my cousin, she is way lighter than we are, and so whenever like we go out with her, they'll just like, oh, she's a friend, and we're like, oh, this is my cousin. Like, she's not your cousin. Like, she's so white, but it's like she is my cousin, and she speaks Spanish. But it just happened that her mom just got my grandpa's side, which my grandpa is whiter than my grandma, and then my mom looks exactly like my grandma, so we all turned out darker than them.
I want to know about American culture, which it is you. You've been born and raised in it. But then how does your family talk about it? And so how does your family describe it? Is there a push and a pull between the two?
So my mom, she actually likes the American culture. We've talked about her and myself wanting to go back to Honduras or like just to visit, and she always says that she'll never go back. Like, she's been here for so long that she's adapted to it. It's like there's so much more freedom here than how she describes it over there, that she's like, she loves my grandma so much, but she doesn't think she'll ever go back just because she adapted to it. And she's like, when she first came here, maybe she did think about going back, but she saw all the opportunities that she got and how she could help us. So, yeah.
How about your dad?
My dad, he actually lives in Kansas City, and he knows how to speak English. So he actually was brought here at a very young age, and so he lived in California. And yeah, he likes it. He really adapted to it, and he's been here for 20 plus years. So yeah, he's like, I'll probably go back to visit, but never to live.
So when you talk about the best thing and maybe the things that you don't like so much about Lincoln, what do you talk about? Or if it's hard for you to think of something, what about your mom or your parents?
The hardest thing would be like whenever I go out with my mom and then like she's trying to explain like what she wants, and then they're like, I can't understand, or can you explain, like when I'm next to her. And she's just trying to practice her English and trying to like, sometimes they'll work with her and then they'll like help her out, but usually because of that she'll just kind of get embarrassed and then tell me to, can you say it, instead of like, I'm gonna try.
What's one of the best things about living in Lincoln?
The best things is seeing that there is some Hispanic culture here in Lincoln that we can relate to, and that my mom could be like, this is kind of how it is over there. Because in certain parts of Nebraska where we've been to, she's like, this is kind of what it looks like over there. Or, this is what we make over there. So I'm glad there's still like ingredients in the stores too to like make the food that they make over there.
What would you say is your, while living in Lincoln, what is your tightest connection to your mom's heritage and culture? Is it food, is it religion, or is it celebrations? What do you think it is?
I think it's definitely the food, just because my mom, her family actually grew up believing in Christianity. So when she came down here, there was really no like Christian churches so that she liked and that were in Spanish. So we stuck with Cristo Rey, which is a Catholic church. And so she actually she was introduced to the Catholic Church, and then she really liked it. So that's one of the differences. But the things that we like, that I feel is definitely the food.
So when you think about, I'm just going to say, a white student sitting next to you in a classroom, what's something that you want them to understand about you and understand about your culture?
Something that I want them to understand about myself would be that although I speak really good English, I'm still learning, and I'm also still learning Spanish at the same time. But I'm not any different as them. Like, I can still do the same things that they can. So, yeah, just because I have brown skin doesn't mean that I'm any different.
Do you feel a push and pull, or do you feel sometimes split?
Yeah, sometimes. I guess it depends who I'm surrounded with. Like, if I'm surrounded with my family or like my Hispanic friends, then I feel more on the Hispanic side. Or like when I go to quinceañeras and Hispanic parties, and I feel more Hispanic. But when I come to school and like I hang out with my white friends, then it's different. I feel more white, but I know that I'm still Hispanic.